A little bit like a migrant worker. I went where the work was good or where something was going on. So, but in 1960, that things were going along, and so I did. That's when I decided. Well, I went to see a guy. I was ready to hit the road again. I couldn't stand not being out there and working in different dealerships and making a living. So I went over to Center Motor Sales on Telegraph Road in Taylor, and so I go there to see my buddy to get him to hit the road with me. His name was Ott Burns, and so when I had set up a little Falcon station wagon, put air conditioning in it, which wasn't really available back then. And I put a cot in there and so on, or at least a mattress. I'm ready to go again. I figure, well, if I can sleep in this, I won't have to pay for motel. So I go in the dealership to talk to him to get him to go, and he said, no, I can't go. So the owner of the dealership come up to me, and he knew who I was because of my reputation as being a salesman. And he says to me, I'd like to have you be sales manager. Well, 60 was a kind of a tough year again. They always used to say every other year is a good year. Well, 60 they had that flight deck on the back of the car, and nobody really liked it. It wasn't nice styling for the days, and they were always used to that turbo tube look back in the back where they had big round tail lights, and nobody liked any stuff that wasn't that way. So anyway, he talked me into being a sales manager. So as I went there, I was there for a while, and so as I had a customer, I had a real crooked salesman. I'm used to that as a manager, but he was the worst in the world. If a customer said, my payments I want at $50 a month, he'd just have them sign it. He'd have them out of there in about 30 seconds. And then payments would be double what the guy expected. But he didn't care, and I went to the dealer and I said, I got to fire this SOB. He's just absolutely ridiculous. I said, I'm spending most of my time reselling the customers when they come in, tell them they have a good deal. And so I remember I have a customer of his, and I'm sitting at my desk in there really discouraged. I didn't know what to do. It was so bad. And a guy stuck his face in my door, in my office door there, and waved at me, and I just waited. I didn't feel like going out and burping some big shot. I knew he had the hard heels, so he had to be important. So anyway, when the day come, then the dealer come back. He went to a long lunch with a kid he had with him, and he says, did you meet that guy? And I said, no, his name was Jake Wardwell. I says, who's Jake Wardwell? He says, he's a district manager. So, oh my God, and he just almost had a heart attack, so he goes back in. So within a few days, he fired me and put a guy on that was going to lunch with him every day by the name of Jerry Carrier. So then I decided, he fired me. So I went to Pat Milliken, who is still in business, and I was his sales manager. And then I decided, well, maybe I didn't really feel like working for him. So I decided then to go to the district, because I had $25,000 available to go in a dealership. So I went up, and I was raised up north, and I went to the guy that owned a dealership in Petoskey, and he owned one in a town close to them. So I was all set to go into that dealership, and I had enough money to go. It was a little dealership, and I figured I knew the people close to me. They were all in business, my nephews, and so I thought that would be a good thing. So I go to Lansing District Office. See, they got an office for the Detroit area, then one for the rest of the state. And so when I go to the district office, the guy named Jake Wardwell was in there, the one that I didn't shake hands with, sitting at this. So he come in, so I started talking to him, and I said, well, I want this dealership, and so And he says, no, he says, that's too little for you. You got to have something else. So he says, let me introduce you to our dealer placement man. So his name was Paul Williams. So he was telling me, boy, I got a good dealership over here. It's a big dealership and a good dealership. But I didn't realize that it was on the water, and I didn't know how important it was because you only got a half a trade area. The fish don't buy cars. So when they go in there and I see the guy tell me about this nice dealership, and I'd like to have you go see it, and I'll have the dealer placement man take you over there. But he walked over to the window, and I see his face wrinkled up from the side, and why is he laughing at me? So I didn't realize right then how important it was. So then the next day the guy took me and he took me to the dealership and showed me around, and it was a really nice looking dealership, but it was closed. So I says to him, why is it closed? He says, well, he says the guy in Goebbels is a Ford dealer. He put one of his men in here, and he said he stole his money. So he says, so he fired him and closed the office because he's into leasing big on his own in Goebbels. So they talked me into going in there, but I didn't know what I was getting into. So as I'm sitting in there, and then it's October, and I didn't realize it would take a long time to get a dealer license. So here they shipped me cars right away, 17 of them. And so I remember sitting in there in September and October, November, December comes along. I got them old cars sitting there, 17 of them. I couldn't sell them. And so anyway, I'm sitting in the dealership there looking at the oval Ford sign out on the windows, all that neon stuff. And I remember looking at that and looking at the truck sign. But finally the mayor of the town walks in, and he says to me, he introduced himself, I hope you have good luck. And I said, why is that? And so I found out that at that point, I was the 5th dealer to have it in the last 10 years, not the 2nd. So I said, oh my God, how am I going to tell my wife about this? Geez, man, did I ever goof up? Then I was thinking back to Paul Williams, what he said. And so in the dealer placement man put me in there. His name was Renner. And boy, I didn't know what to do. I said, oh my God. So I said, well, the only thing I can do is go to work. So I remember selling him, my first car was a black Fairlane 2-door hardtop the 1st of January. And I didn't have a dime in the world. I was totally broke. And so I sold to a guy by the name of George Fike, and that was the 1st of January that I could start selling. That